Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. So today we are going to continue our topic for this week, which is the evolutionary approach. So before that, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see my slide. So in the last lecture, I'm talking about the evolution behavior, about the adaptiveness, the ESS, which is the evolutionary stable strategies, and the cultural transmissions. So for today, we are going to continue about the genes and behavior, and the infanticide, which is a sexually selected male strategy, and the last one is the evolution and human culture. And we also will wait, and beside the three classification of evolution in behavior, we also will study a little bit about the natural selection. Okay, so we go to the fourth one, which is the genes and behavior. So the genes are the products of evolutions. Okay, and the evolution is about changes in gene frequency. Okay, so if the gene frequency have been changes, so we call as a evolution. Okay, the gene making the more fit. Okay, which is the evolution is normally will make the animal more survive, more competent. Okay, so basically this evolution make the animal increase their survival rate. Okay, so and easy to contemplate genes for physical character. Okay, for example, we can easily know the physical characters of the gene. For example, the hair color, the skin color, okay, the skins of the animals or the organisms, or the eye color. But is it actually, it's hard to differentiate between the genes for behavioral traits. Okay, it's hard to distinguish, okay, between the genes for behavioral traits, because the behavior is actually the interactions of nerve, the interactions of muscles, sense, organs, and hormones. Okay, so behavior is actually a complex thing. Okay, because it is actually the interaction between several things. So many difficulties in studying behavior genetics, especially in humans. Okay, so it is easy to study the genetics. Okay, but it is not easy to study the behavioral genetics. Okay, the gene that cause the behavior changes. It is hard uh, to do the study. So classic Mendelian results are rare in behavioral genetics. So the behavioral traits affected by more than one gene. Okay, or the behavioral traits is actually affected by large number of genes that may interact to produce a certain behavior, which is most of the case is not, okay, not an all or non-phenomenon. Okay, so for example in here, the mice, okay, we cannot classify the mice as aggressive or non-aggressive by the gene. Okay, the behavior of aggressive and non-aggressive by the mass is actually, we can classify it as the learned behavior, or the innate behavior, but we cannot classify it by using the genes. Okay, so we need to do the continuous variation. Okay, need to quantitative genetics. Okay, so the continuous variations of the gene, we need to do the quantitative genetic. So, for example, here we have the migratory restlessness in different population of black cap. Okay, so the correlation between how far they have to migrate and the intensity of migration restlessness at the time of migrations. Okay, so those who had to go far away, or they can be classified as more restless. But it is hard for us to study about the genes, okay, that affect the how far they can migrate. Okay, what how the intensity of migration, restlessness of the black cap. So it's hard for us to study about the genes that correlate with the example of behavior. Okay, so this is the examples of the migratory bird. Okay, so the other examples, okay, which we want to relate the behavior with the genes. Okay, so the two love birds of the genus Agapornis. So the pitch face will tuck the nest material. Okay, will tuck the nest material here into their rump, while the fishes lovebirds, they will carry the strips single in their bills. And when crossed, when these two groups of the lovebirds, okay, cross each other during the migrations, so they will result in hybrid. So the hybrids for some time capable of building the nest because they were attempting some sort of compromise between the two behavior of bringing the materials for building the nest. Okay, so after a month of practice, okay, only 41% of trials are successful by the hybrids of the two groups of lovebirds. Okay, and 2 years later, 100% of um, of the hybrid birds will successful, but after 2 years. But before carrying a strips in their bill, they would make a brief turning movement of their head to reminiscence of tucking. Okay, so the hybrids will rely. So the F2 generation or the F2 generation should not be unknown, should not be known. Okay, because the hybrid are barren, are infertile. Okay, so we cannot know the generation of F2 and F3. So this is the other examples, which is we study about the rates of mating in pairs of Drosophila. So as you can see from here, so this is the graph that shows the mating speed, okay, in the Drosophila. The mating speed is actually a complex character which involves the interactions of males and also females and more than just their sexes behavior. Okay, so males from the first mating line, okay, so this is the first mating line, perform high intensity of courtship. Okay, so this is the intensity of courtship. And conversely, the female from first lines, okay, the female from the first line more easily stimulated by their courtship to accept any males, okay, own or the other lines, okay, um, more easily stimulated to courtship to accept any males, okay, than the females in the slow lines. So the artificially induced genetic changes here have produced results very comparable to those found between closely related species in nature. So actually, what does we can conclude from the genes and also the relation between the genes and also the behavior. So as far as the evolution is concerned, it is not that gene always has the same definite effect. Okay, but at least some of the observed differences in behavior, okay, as like for example just now we observe the behavior of how the bird carry the strips to build a nest, or the mating speeds of an individuals. Okay, so between individuals can be traced back to different in their genotype, and these differences may be added to complicated by differences in the environments, okay, the individual have experienced. Okay, for example, like migrations. Okay, so that is actually the example of environments that the individuals has been experienced. Okay, that we know they are, but as long as there are some genetic differences, okay, or we call as some genes for behavior. Okay, then the natural selection can get to work, and we have the raw material for the evolution of behavior. Okay, so later we will study a little bit about the natural selections. Okay, so this is actually the conclusion of the relation between the genes and behavior. So we move to the fifth type of evolution in behavior, which is infanticide. So the infanticide is actually a sexual selected male strategy. So one male group's competition to gain access to female is intensified. So the males are compete for access to groups of males, right? And the outsider of the males, okay, from the groups will exert the constant pressures on the resident males, so that the tenure of the resident males will be short. Okay, because of they have the pressure from the outsider. So the normally the females will nurse the infants for many months. Okay, and if the unweaned infant dies, so the females, okay, will resume the cycling immediately. So the death of infant makes the female available for mating sooner because of they don't need to feed their infant. They don't need to nurse their infant. So the infanticidal males will get immediately mating opportunities. Okay, so if the tenure of the meal is short, okay, because of the just now we are talking about the outsider that give the pressure to the resident males, so it will make the tenure of the resident males will short. So if the resident male tenure is short, so the infanticide enhance the male mating populations. Okay, because the exit will the exit the we're talking about the outsider of the males will exert the constant pressure, and so this infanticide is actually the sexual reproductive strategy for the resident males. Okay, because they can immediately get the mating opportunities with the female, because the female don't need to nurse or feed the infants. Okay, so if the infanticide is a sexually selected male strategy, okay, because they can have the mating opportunities, so we predict that the infanticide will be linked to changes in male residence or status. Okay, we also predict that the male will kill unweaned infants. Okay, and we also predict that the male won't kill their own infants, and also we also predict that the infanticidal male will gain reproductive benefit. Okay, if the infanticide is a, sexually selected male reproductive strategy. So we predict these four, and all of the four are supported by the evidence of the study. Okay, we will look one by one. So the first one is the infanticide is associated with changes in male status. So the males don't kill unless they gain reproductive access that they did not have before, which is maybe the male will rise in rank, okay, or they will take over the population, or they will take over the females, okay, or they will have migrations from to the other place, so they don't kill the infants. Okay, and normally the males will begin to kill the infants soon after they join the group, the population of the animals. Okay, as you can see from here, So they are starting to kill the infant less than 1 year they are joining the group. And after a year, within a year, they will kill a lot of infants. Okay, so actually the males will begin kills the infant or infanticide soon after they join the group. Okay, and the second one, we also predict that the males will kill the unweaned infant. Okay, so this is the probability of surviving presence of infanticidal males. Okay, so the surviving if the age of from 0 months to 3 months, the survival rate will be very low. Okay, but if the infanticide can survive, okay, up to more than 9 months, so that they will have the higher chances of surviving. Okay, because the males are always kill the unweaned infant. Okay, in the infant group. And the third prediction is actually regarding the males don't kill its own infants. So as you can see from here, the percentage of possibility or likely the male will kill their own infant are very slim. Okay, are very low. And the fourth prediction, which is the infanticidal males will gain reproductive benefits. Okay, as you can see from here, from this graph, from this bar chart, the infanticide brings female back to estrus, and the infanticidal males often meet with mother of that infant. And as you can see from this bar chart, they for yes, okay, they have a highest numbers. Okay, so from this study it shows that more of the infanticidal males will get the mating opportunities, okay, more with the mother of that infant. So actually the infanticide will actually give the benefits to the males. Okay, so there is a the strategy of the males. So the infanticide is the major cause of mortality. Okay, even though because the infanticide they will give the benefits to the males. So the male normally will kill the infants. Okay, and it causes a major of mortality. And um, as you can see from here, so the infanticide major happen in this howler and bluekie monkey. Okay, and also the least infanticide happen in the chimp populations. So this is the counter strategies to toward the infanticide. Okay. The first one, the first strategy is actually to defend the victims of attack. Okay, so it defend by the mothers, or by the female kins, or by the males present at conception fathers. Okay, so this is the defend victims of attacks is the first strategy to thwart the infanticide. And the second strategy is to confuse the paternity. Okay, because of the female know that the male won't kill its own child, so it will do the strategy to confuse the paternity. So the strategy is to estrus swelling. So this is the estrus. Okay, or to mate with many males. So many males, okay, will assume that the baby that the female carry is theirs. Okay, so they won't kill the baby, or the female will mate with the newcomers. So the newcomers normally, just now we were talking about, the male will starting to kill their infant once they are joining the group, right? So the female will normally will immediate mate with the newcomers, so that the newcomers won't kill the infant. So this is the counter strategy to thwart the infanticide. So in baboon, okay, male-female ties may be respond to infanticide. So in some populations, infanticide is common when the male joins groups or the males rise in status. Okay. For example, just now we are talking about the most common infanticide in a group of howler and also blue monkey. Uh, So the mother will forms the associations with the particular males. So the possible father of current infant. All right. So the males will protect the females infant. Okay. So the males provide care and attention preferentially to infants who are actually theirs, and normally they can detect, okay, if the infant is belong to them or not. Okay, so this is actually the ties of male and females. Okay, so the sexually selected infanticide has now been documented in a number of taxa. Okay, just now we're talking about a group of monkeys. Okay, so all the major groups of primates. Okay, all the major group of primates, for example, prosimians, new world monkeys, old world monkeys, apes. So all of these primates group, so they are common in infanticide. So we also documented the infanticide in the lion groups or rodent groups or birds groups. Okay, and there also a controversy about the infanticide. Okay, so the controversy is about whether the infanticide is a sexually selected strategy persists because people will confuse the infanticide is a sexually selected strategy, or the infanticide is actually the odd selected strategy. Okay, so this is a controversy. So we call the situation as the naturalistic fallacy. So it assumes that the natural phenomena are right, just, or unchangeable, and this phenomena is a good. The infanticide phenomena is a good. So we also worry that if the infanticide is adaptive to langurs and also lions, so it also would be justified in humans. Okay, so this is really a controversy because this reasoning is wrong. We cannot extract the moral meanings from the from the animal's behavior. Okay, is actually can be adaptive to the humans' behavior. Okay, so it is a controversy about infanticide strategy. So we move to the last types of evolution in behavior, which is evolution and human culture. Okay, so no other species come close to matching social learning and cultural transmissions that occurs among humans. Okay, and wait for a while. Okay. Okay. So, human culture related to evolutionary theory in distinct discipline of sociobiology. We cannot match the social behavior of humans, of animals with humans. Okay, because we have a distinct discipline of sociobiology, which is we are talking about the field of biology that aims to examine and explains the social behavior, okay, in terms of evolutions. We have a distinct of this study. Okay, we cannot relate it with the animal social behavior. Okay, so human behavior result from interaction between genes and also environments. And however, social and cultural institutions may provide only future in which there is no continuum between humans and other animals. Okay, so that is a brief about the evolution and human culture. So we move to the last topic. Okay, in the evolution in behavior, which is we want to talk a little bit about the natural selections. So, the unequal survival and reproduction of organisms due to environmental forces, resulting in the preservation of favorable adaptations. Okay, so the best adaptation for survival and reproduction are passed on. Okay, which is if they have the unequal survivals and also reproduction of animals, okay, which is due to environmental forces. Okay, it will normally will result in some adaptation, and this adaptation is actually the best adaptations for survival, which is will increase the survival rate of the organisms. Okay, so in natural selection, the heritable features that increase the fitness become more common in a groups over generations, because the organism will this with these features leave more offspring and those lacking them. Okay, so it is a fact that the heritables or the variation in the gene or the adaptiveness it uh, actually can be more common in a group. Okay, from generations over generations. Okay, because these generations that carries the features of the gene variables. Okay, it can becomes it can increase their fitness. Okay, it can leave more offspring. For example, in the reproduction success, it can leave more offspring to that who has lacking of these features. Okay, so this is the natural selections. So for example in here, so we have a Darwin theories, so which is based on the mechanism of natural selections. So this explains that how population can evolve in such a way that they become better suited to the environments over the time. So for example in here is about the mice. So the light mice here, they are more easily can be seen by the predators, and therefore they also will prey more often. While the dark mice here, they are better adapted to the environment and better able to survive and reproduce. Okay, so the natural selection will acting on mice population over the time. Okay, so as you can see from here, so this is population of mice has moved into a new area where the rocks are very dark. So due to the natural genetic variation, some mice are black and while the other are tan color. So the tan color mice are more visible to predators. Okay, in here we call about the bird. So the tan mice are eaten at a higher frequency than the black mice. Okay, then only the surviving mice reach the reproductive age and leave the offspring. So only the survival mice will produce, okay, can produce a new generations. So because of the black mice had a higher chance of leaving offspring than the tan mice, so the next generations will contain a higher fractions of black mice than the previous generations, okay, over the new generation. So this is what we call as a natural selections. Okay, that they have a changing over the time. They have a changing of the gene over the time. So this picture we show the variation in the species of big cats. Okay, so all of these we call as the group of big cats and owls. Okay, so natural selection is considered to be the biggest factor that resulting in the diversity of species, or we call it the species precision. Susah nak sebut malam ni. Okay, so actually the natural selection is one of the basic mechanism of evolutions. Okay, which comes along with the mutations, migrations, and also the genetic drift. Okay, we're talking about the migration because they have a chance that during the migration, the organisms, the group of any animals will cross over and will produce a hybrid. So we're talking about the evolutions, but also in the migrations. Okay, so there is a variation in trait which result in a diverse population of species. So the environment can support unlimited population growth of a species, particularly if there are all in the same ecosystems. Okay, if they are living in the same ecosystems, which they need to compete each other for the same resources. Therefore, all of not all of the individuals will get to produce to their full potentials. Okay, because of they are always compete with the same resources because they are living in the same ecosystems. Okay, so basically, the natural selection is actually the version traits which can result in in more fitness in that particular organisms or particular animals. So all the organisms need to reproduce in order for them to survive, and the successful organism will pass on the genetic information of the surviving species from generation to the generation. So the latest generation will have the more survival skills. Okay, the more successful genes. Okay, for example, also in here, this weeding out of the less suit organism and the reward of survival to those better should lead Darwin's to conclude that the species evolve at different times and places, and his survival of the fitness theory. So this is also the we also can know as a natural selection. And we go to the examples. Okay, the other examples of natural selections, which is in the Galapagos finches. Okay, so this is the adaptive evolution and also specializations of the Galapagos finches. Okay, as you can see from here, so they have a different pinches in here. Okay, even though they are from the same groups of birds. Okay, so the DNA data indicate that the origin of Darwin finches form a single ancestral species. So actually, if you can see from here, even though they have a difference, okay, even though they have a different character and morphology of the finches, but the DNA data indicate that all of this group are actually come from the single ancestral species. Okay, and the most important differences between species are in the size and shapes of their beaks, and the beaks are highly adapted to different food of sources. So the genes are transferred out from generation to generation in order for them to adapt to their environment. Okay, because to adapt to their environment and food sources. Okay, so this is the example of natural selection. Okay, we end of this topic of evolution. Okay, so I hope all of you can understand about the evolution in behavior. We actually, it's hard for us to, to identify the behavior is actually caused by the genes evolution or not. Okay, but basically based on the type evolution in behavior, basically um, you can figure out, okay, what is actually the characters or the or the factor that can affect the evolution in behavior of the animals. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.